participants on the requirements for portfolio assessment, renewal of NC, yes, and for the actual assessment, and also answers to the questions that you have harvested a while ago.
You were talking and I'm going through the questions in the chat room. So first on the requirements for assessment. So if you are a first-time candidate, these are the things that are required. Well, birth certificate and the marriage contract. These are actually requirements of the institution or the assessment center. So to verify and validate your profile. And then just 4 pieces, latest passport picture with specification. So ito, I think this is common to all. It should be clear. The pictures should really be clear. And there's an application form. So yan lang po ang kailangan for the first-time candidates for assessment. If you are with experience, at least 5 years experience, then we have the portfolio assessment, which we implemented this pandemic, so that you don't have to go to the assessment center. You just submit requirements. So your curriculum vitae or resume, shinorten ko lang ho ito. Medyo mahaba dun sa ano kasi may mga explanation bawat isa. And your certificate of employment of at least 5 years. We verify that with the employer. So yung isasubmit na certificate of employment, magtatanong muna din kami dun sa employer na nakapirma dito sa certificate of employment for the veracity of this certificate. And then we would ask a video coverage of how you were working as a caregiver. So yan ay mga 20-minute video showing the different competencies. May 12 competencies kasi yung caregiver. So para lang makita na ginagawa nyo na talaga yung work na yan. And then if you have, these are added, if you have awards or commendation or licenses that you have gathered related to being a caregiver. And if you have training that you took, then the certificates of training would help. So who are qualified? So there are 3 types. So yung mga graduates of the caregiving NC2 course and other health-related qualifications. In our case, narinig ko na kanina na if you're a nurse or a PT, you don't have to have an NC. But in our case, to get a caregiving NC2, kahit pa nurse ka, kailangan pa rin nung mag-undertake nung assessment to get a caregiving NC2. And then if you're an experienced caregiver nga, just like what I mentioned above, those with 5 years portfolio assessment, with less than 5 years, you don't have to go through training, but you need to go and undergo assessment. Ito yung mga ginagawa namin. Pumupunta kami sa mga Singapore, sa KSA, and UAE. Those who have worked as caregivers, we assess them and they pass naman. And those with caregiver NC2 certificate but expired, so pwede na siyang i-renew. Actually, may bago ho kaming training regulations, but it's not yet 1 year, kaya pwede pa yung aming lumang caregiver NC2 certificate. But after a year na ma-roll out namin to, then it will have to be renewed again. But for this, kung meron na kayong lumang certificate, and I heard earlier na sa mga chat meron nagsasabi, then i-renew lang yan as long as you worked as a caregiver within the last 2 years. Kasi kung may caregiver NC2 certificate pero 5 taon na kayong hindi naman naging caregiver, so you have to go through assessment. Pero kung talagang naging trabaho nyo yung caregiver, you just need to give us a certificate of employment, and then the ID pictures also mentioned above kasi ilalagay yun doon sa national certificate, and 100 pesos fee for the renewal. And then may nagtanong that you have finished caregiver course in Singapore and other countries. That's what we do actually. Pumupunta ka kaming Singapore kasi yung mga nag-training doon, we conduct assessment for them. So they will have to go through assessment. And then yung mga training, kung wala pa daw training, yes, there are available training institutions nationwide, but it will take 6 months, sabi nga ni DG Lina, so hindi na kayo aabot dito sa requirements for Israel. Maybe in the future. So yun lang po muna yung na-take up ko. Unless there are questions, we'll just answer them. With me here also is our Assistant Executive Director, si Janet, and a caregiver assessor, so that yung mga technical questions ay baka pwedeng masagot ng aming assessor, si Donabel. So yun lang po muna. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Patty. In connection to that, no, sa Ma'am Patty, ito po yung para, kasi ang daming sa 500 po na magtatanong, i-harvest na lang po natin sa, in relation doon po sa kay Ma'am Patty, I also mentioned this to the Jelina, kung pwede daw po yung college graduate, I know it's a 6 months training, like in the other countries, if you're a college grad or a degree holder, you are hindi po pareho ang training compared to like high school graduate, 6 months sila. Yung college graduate, meron po mga 2 months na lang. Would that be doable? I also mentioned this to the Jelina.
Yes, we have the recognition of prior learning. So yung institution na papasukan nila, may institutional assessment naman sila. So for every competency, kung if they pass that already without going through the formal training, then they go to the next competency-based kasi tayo eh. Then they go to the next competency, the next competency. So mas-shorten yung 6 months.
Okay.
So assessment na gagawin yung institution sa kanila muna, pre-training assessment.
Oh, thank you so much, Ma'am Patty. So sa mga listeners, no, at saka especially sa FB Live, pwede po kayo magtanong sa FB Live. I-harvest din po namin. To Admin Eulalia, Admin, pwede bang malaman daw po, kasi sa dami nila, they are really, you know, of course, eager to be included dito sa caregiver for Israel. Ilan na po on hand sa iyo ang mga applicants, and how fast can we work on this one? Kasi I understand from Ambassador Alberto that we have until March 31, if I'm right. So we really want to comply and help our OFWs or becoming OFWs dito sa concern. So tama ba yun, Ambassador? It's March 31 ang deadline? Nakamute po kayo, Ambassador.
March 21 actually yung deadline. So we need at least 500. Pag na-fill up yung 500, they will open up another slot for 500.
Wow.
So umabot na 1,000.
Wow.
Kasi for this year, kasi March 21 ng second.
670
Sri Lankan law.
700 to 800.
Ibigay yung 500 to. Pero kung maibigay sa atin yung 500, maybe we can get the 1,000 na para sa atin. Mas gusto nila yung Pilipino kaysa yung Sri Lanka. Kaya ano natin, bilisan natin.
Very good news yan, no? So anyway, bago ko ibigay ka Admin Eulalia sa mga nakikinig, no? Magpa-enroll na kayo sa question as to is there a regional training center? I think maybe Ma'am Pat can put it on the chat box na kung saan yung mga regional training centers.